So guys, I do want to talk about AEW and I want to give you my fantasy booking for Wembley Stadium. And what I also want to say is a couple of things. That first of all, I do want this to be a 5 hour show, maybe a 6 hour show. Like you have like the 7 o'clock, preliminary or special start time. And, or you can do like a six, or you can start at 6 p.m., just because the thing is that this is their big show of the year. This is their WrestleMania. So I don't mind them going a little long with this just to show what they can do. And then the next thing that I want to say is that I will talk about the matches that they already have, and I'll talk about, a little bit of my expectations for them or if they should be altered. And then the next thing that I'll say is that really the point of Wembley Stadium is to elevate new stars, is to definitely make money by having people on the roster who will make money for AEW. And then I think the final thing, and then also maybe hopefully sell it out. They're at 45,000 people. They can definitely get 25,000 more people and sell the whole arena. That's definitely doable, but definitely it depends on the match card and how much compelling television that they put in there. And I think the final thing that I've said many times is that they need to put ROH over, because obviously, you want to make ROH feel like a bigger deal. That's why I've said many, many times that the ROH titles, some of the titles should be defended at Wembley Stadium. And then the final thing that I need to say is you need to reward people who have worked hard this entire year, really. I definitely think that definitely Mark Briscoe deserves to be on this card. Daniel Garcia deserves to be on this card. Takeshita deserves to be on this card. And a few other ones which may not even be on the card this year with AEW just because they're a big deal, but they're not the biggest deal in the world. I think that it sends a message to the locker room that, you have to really earn it, because there are plenty of people in AEW that just are there for a paycheck, and they know that Tony's forgotten about them because it's such a big roster, really. So if you really show up and you really deliver, it deserves to be rewarded. Again, WWE does that a little bit with WrestleMania every single year, but yeah, I definitely feel that way. So you have MJF versus Will Ospreay. I'm okay with this match, but I would say that I would not have a time limit to it. Some people said this should be 30 minutes, but I do think it should be 30 minutes without it. Don't announce it with a time limit, but it should be 30 minutes. And I definitely think Will Ospreay should use the Tiger Driver. I definitely think that this should either open the show or this should be in the middle of the match. Like if people feel a little tired, this should be like a way to revitalize the crowd, really. But I would want to see this match happen. I have no problem with MJF and Ospreay having this match. He uses the Tiger Driver, and he turns to a bit of a heel, and maybe Don Callis comes down with Will Ospreay, because that could be the direction that they go in. But I do think that this could lead to a final match at all out, really. So that way they have like a match series, and that should be like the way to do it. Because also with this show, you want to build up matches to All Out. So I think that have Ospreay win, and then the blow-off match should be at All Out. The next match is Toni Storm versus Mariah May. I'm okay with this one. I would want Mariah May to win this because I know Toni Storm. I know Toni Storm's gimmick has been going on for a long time. So like I said, you need something new. But some people are hoping that Jamie Hayter comes back. So if Jamie Hayter comes back, I have no problem with Mariah May losing, so you get Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter. That's what the people want to see. Give them what they want at All Out, because you need to kind of build up a good match card for that, since it's just a few weeks after the show. Britt Baker versus Mercedes Moné. This is a tough match, but I really think that you should have Mercedes Moné actually win this one, just because where do you go with Britt Baker? Type of thing. Or you can have Britt Baker win this, and Mercedes Moné uses her pull with the EVPs to get a women's the AEW Women's Championship match. Like there should be kind of like a progression, but either way, I think they both should have a banger, and this should be maybe a 30-minute match. The next match is Swerve versus Bryan Danielson. I would want this to be an hour or something between 45 minutes and an hour. This is a good main event match. There's two things that I want to say. I think that Swerve can win this one, but I think it would be cool if you did Swerve. I know if you had Bryan Danielson win this one. So therefore you do Bryan Danielson versus Darby Allin at Grand Slam. And then what you can actually do is Bryan Danielson versus Swerve versus Darby Allin at Wrestle Dream, because they're all from the state of Washington. And I think that a lot of people would want to see that match. I do think that that's what I would do. I think I would have Bryan Danielson actually win this one, and he actually represents the title. Has like a short reign with it, just to give him something. And then Wrestle Dream, if he can't like defend the title, you switch it back. You give it back to Swerve, or you give it to Darby Allin, just so you have a new person. The next one's Jack Perry versus Darby Allin for the TNT title. I have no problem with this. I think that this is a hard match to say. I think it's good. And I think it's a 50-50 match. I think there's benefits for Jack Perry winning this, because you can't kind of do something where, because it's almost like, where do you go with Darby Allin, really? And then the other issue is, if Darby Allin wins this, what do you do with Grand Slam? Because, then he'll be a duo champion type of thing, really. So I do think that you need to have Jack Perry win this one by cheating, or by disqualification, and then you could do Adam Copeland versus Darby Allin at all out. I think that would be how I would do it. And then when now the rest of these matches are my fantasy matches. The Young Bucks versus the Acclaim. There's a couple things about it. I do not want to see the Young Bucks versus the Acclaim versus FTR. I think that's a good all out match. But definitely, like with WrestleMania and other things like that, if you have too many people in the main event, you run into a Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch versus, you run into Becky Lynch versus Ronda Rousey, and let's shoehorn Charlotte Flair into that. So I do really think that that definitely you want to keep it like 1 versus 1, and they have the story and all that, really. So I do think that that's the thing to do. That you should have FTR on the card, but FTR should have a match with the Undisputed Kingdom, and that's going to be my next thing I'm going to say. FTR versus the Undisputed Kingdom, just to give them some exposure, and then you're going to do FTR versus the Acclaim for the AEW titles at all, for the AEW tag team titles at All Out, and then the winner of that one is going to face the Young Bucks at Grand Slam. So that's the way I would do that. Or I would even do something like, you have Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed beat them. All Out, you have the Acclaimed versus FTR. And then at Grand Slam, you have the Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed versus FTR. That would be the way to do that, in my opinion. The next match would be Willow Nightingale versus Athena for the ROH Women's title. And as I've said again, you need to elevate the ROH title. Why would I want to be in ROH? If I was somebody like Queen Aminata, or if I was somebody like Roderick Strong, what about if they did something like, say, like, I want to win this title, I want to be in front of 50,000 people and other things like that. So that would be a way to just, that'd be a way to elevate them. So let's start it now. Willow Nightingale versus Athena. There's a couple of things. Willow Nightingale, she's had a very strong year in women's wrestling. So I do think it'll be appropriate for her to challenge Athena and for them to have a good match. And then people talk about pushing women's wrestling. So this would be a great match between the two. And I would automatically have Willow Nightingale beat Athena, because you have to end this reign. What is Athena doing with this? She's holding up ROH, which is good, but eventually she has to move on. She is not Hulk Hogan in 1980s holding up the WWE on her shoulders. You need to make Athena lose. And I'm sorry there's an asshole outside who's just honking his horn. Sometimes I wish I had something heavy just to throw these people, because they just, I'll probably throw this at them, my DVD player, because they think they run the place, so I'm sorry, you guys. The next match, I would have Dustin Rhodes and the Von Erichs, and Kevin Von Erich there versus the Don Callis family, and for the 6-man titles. And the reason why I would have this match, and this could be even on the preliminary card or a special start time, is because Dustin Rhodes is close to retirement. Give him a big spot. He deserves it like a motherfucker. You want the Von Erich boys. People talk about the Von Erichs. Kevin Von Erich is getting up there in age. This would be a great veterans match. You don't have Sting anymore. So, the Von Erichs and Dustin Rhodes versus the Don Callis family. And the reason why you have the Don Callis family is because Takeshita has done a great job this year. Kyle Fletcher's also been doing good, and then you also have Roosh. You're trying to make Roosh a bigger deal. You're trying to make Takeshita a bigger deal. Why not have them face the Von Erichs? This would be a good match for everybody. I think that this is a very win-win match. This is something that Tony Khan should do. The next match you should have is Trent Beretta versus Orange Cassidy in a last man standing match. This can honestly go just 15 minutes or even like a good 10 minutes just because, there's going to be a lot of matches on this card. Definitely the reason why you want to have this is because, again, you're doing something with Trent Beretta, and Trent Beretta needs to be looked strong. I can even say you can take these two off the card and you can have them at All Out this match. But I think the reason why you want to have this match is to make Orange Cassidy a serious wrestler. If he can be serious, then he should win. If he's going to be the joke wrestler, then you should have Trent Beretta win. Like if he's doing the comic kicks and all that, really. But people like Orange Cassidy, you have to have him on the show, really. So this would be a good match. But Trent Beretta should win this match, so you make a new star. The next match should be the Christian Cage and the Patriarch versus Bullet Club Gold. They've already had a match, but again, Christian Cage has a lot of charisma. A lot of people want to see him. Bullet Club Gold has a lot of charisma. People want to see them do a rematch. Put the trios title on the line, really. And then also Christian Cage should get on the microphone and really just, diss the trios division. And then you see St. Chandler Promotions. You see the Von Erichs. You see Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony and other people. Like at least 6 or 7 different trios can come out. And they're all around the ring. Even the Learning Tree, they're like, you know what? Okay, motherfucker, you're calling us out. Let's actually do something about this. This would be the way to go, really, because I think in the next year from Wembley Stadium 2024 to Wembley Stadium 2025, if that's what they do, you need to build the trios division. There's so many great teams. You have an issue with the overflated roster. Make some trios teams that matter. This would be the way to do that. And then also again, the Von Erichs hold up their 6-man titles at the end of this, just to be like, okay, there's also another team in the division you got to go through, you guys. So I think that would be good. Layla Hirsch versus Saraya or Chris Statlander. Layla Hirsch just had a great match. I forgot who she wrestled, but she had a great match at Death Before Dishonor. And the reason why you do this is because Layla Hirsch just won a Death Before Dishonor. She had a Texas death match. She did a very good job. You need to reward that and make her a star, because then it's saying, hello, Layla Hirsch is on the Ring of Honor roster. She has great matches. We need to graduate her to AEW, Dynamite, and Collision, just to show that if you're in Ring of Honor and you've been there for a while, now you're having good matches, you need to be pushed to the main roster. So people know that, okay, if you're in Ring of Honor, you can eventually be a bigger star in AEW. So do that with her. You can have Saraya, the hometown girl, or you have Chris Statlander, who's also had a good year, and she's also a very physical wrestler. So either good options. But also Layla Hirsch should win this one, because obviously you can't just have her be buried. Hangman versus Mark Briscoe, 100% this needs to be on the card. And the reason why you do this is that you have number 1 contendership. So you have Mark Briscoe, who's been the workhorse of AEW, and you also have Hangman Adam Page, who's been doing a great job. So you have them have a match. You have Hangman beat Mark Briscoe, and then you do Swerve versus Hangman at All Out, and that should be your main event match. They've not touched each other, I think, since March, but they had a triple threat match in March, really. So this is a good 6 months off of it. You have one more match at All Out, and All Out in Chicago. People would want to see this. Do a Chicago death match, or even do like a Chicago fire match, or a Chicago murder rate match, or something like that, or a Chicago death match. Do that. And I think that this would be a great. You want a quick feud, you want a quick build, you gotta do that. But you give Mark Briscoe a match. He's the ROH champion, and this would be good for him. He's been a workhorse. You saw him have 3 matches last week at Blood and Guts, Death Before Dishonor, and then also Collision. So you need to kind of reward Mark Briscoe. You need to tell him that because you're the ROH champion, you need to be featured like a big deal. One day we need to take that title off of you so you're actually on the main roster. Maybe you can be the AEW champion, be the first one that's both the ROH champion going over to AEW, being the AEW champion. So that needs to happen. I want to do a Claudio versus Okada for the Continental title, because two things I want to do is that if you're going to have Bryan Danielson wrestle a couple more months, I want to see him versus Claudio versus Bryan Danielson, because I know like Claudio has some jealousy issues. So you can have Claudio lose here, he gets mad, then he gets jealous of Bryan Danielson, so you can lead to a future feud. But Claudio versus Okada is good, because you got to have Okada on the card, since, he's a really good wrestler. And then also you can kind of experiment. If he does a great match with Claudio and do a really great job, then you tell yourself, you know what, maybe when we break off the EVP faction, we actually just we'll actually see if Okada's better as a single star than in a group. And the last match I'll do is Chris Jericho and Big Bill and Brian Keith versus Hook, Shibata, and Daniel Garcia. Samoa Joe's out because he on injury, I believe, or he's out because of that injury angle, and I think he's doing that to film Twisted Metal. So bring in Daniel Garcia, because he's somebody looking for a fight. And then also you can do some promos between Daniel Garcia and Chris Jericho to get him over. And what I would want to do is that after you do Ospreay versus MJF at Wrestle Dream, or even at, or if you have MJF win, or at All Out, it should be MJF versus Daniel Garcia. That has to happen. And Daniel Garcia needs to win and win MJF's title just to make him a new star. You need to build new stars, really. And the other reason why I should have this match is that it gives Daniel Garcia some exposure. You want him to be a big deal. You need to make new stars. And if he has like some talk with Chris Jericho, and he's like, Chris Jericho, you had a match with MJF. You know what? You're somebody that he's beaten before. I'll go through you to get to him, type of thing, really. And they talk about this match and they make it a big deal. You would have Daniel Garcia pin Chris Jericho in the triple match. In this trios match. And then he goes on to face MJF. That would be a good way to kind of like boost him up a bit, because you have to have him have big victories. You have to make a new star, really. Chris Jericho losing to Daniel Garcia in a triple threat match, triple T match, I think that would be good. And then also you have Brian Keith, a new star being exposed to a bigger audience. You have Big Bill, who's a little lost on the roster, being exposed to a big audience. So this actually works very well to build new stars. And then the final thing that I'll say is that I really like the card that I have, really. I do think that 12 to 13 matches is good. You have to really emphasize 10-minute, 15-minute matches. You can look at the card that I have, and you can say, okay, we need to have some squash matches. Because if you're going to have Camille on the card, who was with Mercedes Moné, why not just have her have a squash match? If there's a woman on the roster that's being an asshole, you make her have a squash match. Or if there's somebody being a jerk on the AEW roster, you can have a squash match or something like that, or have a local talent, really. Or you can have Simon Miller, and then you can have him face, Hobbs, a returning Hobbs or something like that. But I do think that this card that I have is really good, because you need to build new stars. You need to make ROH feel like a bigger deal. And I also feel that that also, too, you need to build your next generation, and also you need to put people on the card that are going to draw you some money. 25,000, you need 25,000 more people, or 35,000 more people to sell Wembley Stadium. I think they have 45,000 right now, but, you can sell Wembley Stadium. You have the card to do it. I have suggestions on how you can kind of make more money with this. But definitely, it's a really important show. It's their WrestleMania. It's really their WrestleMania, and they have to treat it like a big deal and have the right matches for this. And definitely, the other plug with this is that you have to make matches that lead to All Out, a show that you're going to have like 2 weeks after this. And then you also have that other thing too, where you got to lead to Grand Slam, really. So there's a lot of signs that really point to my card just making those things a big deal, building up ROH. Giving people motivation to watch ROH or ROH wrestlers to do good, rewarding people who deserve to be on this card because of all the hard work they've done. And I also think that the other thing too is that you guys have, that they also have to do is build new stars, and also have all the wrestlers that you have there, and definitely feature veteran wrestlers, because how much longer does Dustin Rhodes have, or the Von Erich, or Kevin Von Erich have, in both life and just, being and traveling, really, so you got to do all that stuff. So I'm definitely going to share this with Tony Khan on Twitter and see what he thinks. But I do feel that I really feel that I have some really good ideas. All right, I'll talk to you guys later, and thank you.